March 21st, 2025. The National WWII Museum in New Orleans. 18 women, dressed immaculately, wearing red polka dot scarves, walk with purpose into a heartfelt ceremony. Staff and visitors line the plaza, waving American flags with pride, and among them, Erlinda Avila, 97 years young. But back in 1943, she was just 15, small enough to crawl inside the wings of B-25 bombers. Her hands helped build the aircraft that turned the tide in World War II. 80 years overdue, she receives the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honor America can bestow. But the question begs, why did it take so long? And what exactly did Erlinda do inside those wings that the Army couldn't find anyone else to do? Block 01, the 15-year-old who built bombers. 1943, Phoenix, Arizona. Erlinda Avila passes the Army recruiting station. For what feels like the 100th time this week, she's just 15 years old, barely old enough to drive. Her brother was recently drafted, shipped off to the Pacific Theater. She burns with the desire to serve, to contribute. She takes a deep breath and walks in. The recruiter looks up, his expression a mix of weariness and duty. "Can I help you, miss?" "I want to enlist," she says, her voice filled with nervous determination. He manages a kind smile. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Women can't enlist in combat roles." Erlinda nods. She had expected this. "What about non-combat roles?" "How old are you?" 15. The recruiter's smile completely vanishes, replaced by a look of concern. "Come back in 3 years, kid." Erlinda leaves, but she doesn't head straight home. Just 2 blocks away, a different kind of recruitment is underway. A poster plastered on a factory wall catches her eye. "We can do it." Emblazoned with an image of a woman flexing her bicep. Below it in bold letters, "Defense workers needed, no experience necessary." Erlinda walks in. This time, nobody asks her age. The foreman, a burly man with grease-stained hands, sizes her up. "You ever worked with metal before, kid?" "No, sir," she replies, a little intimidated. "Can you fit in small spaces?" Erlinda doesn't quite understand the question, but she nods anyway. Anything to get her foot in the door. The foreman grins, a knowing glint in his eyes. "When can you start?" Micro reward 1, 20%. That seemingly random question, "Can you fit in small spaces?" wasn't random at all. The B-25 Mitchell bomber had a critical design flaw, a hidden challenge that would ultimately determine who could build it. And Erlinda Avila, at just 15 years old and barely 5 feet tall, was exactly what North American aviation desperately needed to solve this intricate mechanical puzzle. Block 02, inside the wings. First day, North American Aviation Factory, Kansas City. The sheer scale of the factory is overwhelming. Erlinda stands dwarfed in front of a B-25 Mitchell bomber. It's absolutely massive. Twin engines gleaming, twin tail fins reaching skyward, 73 feet long, an intimidating symbol of wartime power. The foreman leads her around the wing, pointing out key features. "See that opening there?" Erlinda follows his gaze. She sees it. A small hatch, barely 18 inches wide, an almost impossibly tight space. "You're going inside," he states matter-of-factly. Erlinda blinks, taken aback. "Inside the wing. That's where the rivets go," he explains patiently. "Fuel tanks, hydraulic lines, control cables, everything runs through the wing. We need someone small enough to fit inside and strong enough to work a rivet gun for 8 hours straight." He hands her a rivet gun. It weighs a surprising 12 pounds, heavy for her small frame. "You'll be working in the dark. There's one small light to guide you. You'll be on your stomach, your back, your side, whatever position lets you reach the rivet hole. You'll hear the bucking bar on the other side of the aluminum, a deafening bang. When you hear it, you press the trigger. 3 seconds, not 2, not 4, 3. If the rivet's too loose, the wing fails in flight, catastrophically. If it's too tight, the metal cracks, compromising the entire structure. You understand? Erlinda nods, her apprehension growing. Good. Get in. Erlinda takes a deep breath and crawls through the hatch. Inside, the wing is dark, cramped, and the air hangs heavy with the acrid smell of aviation fuel and hot metal. She can hear voices outside, muffled and distorted. She can hear the cacophony of the factory, hammers, drills, rivet guns firing on other aircraft. A constant assault on her senses. She carefully positions herself under the first rivet hole. A faint stream of light filters through, offering a meager beacon. A voice from outside, barely audible. Ready? Erlinda presses the rivet gun firmly against the hole. Ready? Bang! 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 The deafening bucking bar hammers the other side. Erlinda pulls the trigger. The rivet gun roars. 3 seconds. The rivet flattens. Seemingly perfect. Next one. The voice barks. She crawls forward 6 inches. Her shoulder scrapes against the unforgiving aluminum. She painfully repositions. Another rivet hole. Another challenge. Bang! 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 She pulls the trigger. 3 seconds. Her ears ring. Next one. This grueling process continues, relentlessly, for 8 hours. When Erlinda finally crawls out of the wing, her arms are shaking uncontrollably. Her hands are covered in painful blisters. Her coveralls are completely soaked with sweat. The foreman casually checks her work with a flashlight and a measuring gauge, his face unreadable. 47 rivets, all perfect. He offers a curt nod. See you tomorrow. Cliffhanger 1. Erlinda worked tirelessly inside those wings for 18 long months, pouring her heart and soul into every rivet. But there's something nobody told her. Something the engineers discovered far too late. A secret hidden within the very design of the B-25 Mitchell. The B-25 Mitchell had the highest in-flight structural failure rate of any American bomber in World War II, and it was directly related to the rivets. Bloco 2.5, the B-25 Mitchell. Why size mattered. Before we can fully understand why Erlinda's seemingly insignificant work was so critical, you need to grasp the importance, the significance of the B-25 Mitchell bomber itself. Because this wasn't just any aircraft rolling off the assembly line. This was the bomber that would spearhead the daring Doolittle raid on Tokyo. The bomber that would provide crucial close air support on D-Day. The bomber that would ultimately fly more combat missions than any other American twin-engine aircraft in World War II. A true war hero. Specifications: 73 feet long, 67-foot wingspan. Empty weight: 19,800 pounds. Maximum takeoff weight: 35,000 pounds. 2 Wright R2600 Cyclone engines, generating a staggering 1,400 horsepower each. Top speed: 272 miles per hour. Range: 1,350 miles. Crew: 6 brave souls. Armament: 12 fearsome 50 caliber machine guns. Bomb load: 3,000 pounds of devastation. But here's what really matters. What separates the B-25 from the rest? The wings. The B-25's wings weren't simply lifting surfaces. They were integral, structural fuel tanks. The entire interior wing space, from the fuselage to the engine nacelles, was designed to function as a giant fuel cell. 634 gallons of highly volatile, high-octane aviation gasoline, sloshing through aluminum tanks, riveted directly into the wing structure. This innovative design was brilliant in its simplicity. It eliminated the need for cumbersome external fuel tanks. It significantly reduced drag. It dramatically increased the aircraft's overall combat range. But it also created a hidden, deadly problem. If a single rivet failed, if one rivet was even slightly too loose or too tight or improperly aligned during installation, fuel could leak, not into the designated fuel tank, but directly into the wing structure itself, pooling ominously around critical electrical cables, around sensitive hydraulic lines, around dangerously hot metal components, and when that escaped fuel ignited, the wing didn't simply catch fire, it exploded. This nightmare scenario did happen 16 times in the blink of an eye, mid-flight. Between March and August of 1943 alone, 16 B-25 bombers lost, 96 brave crew members killed, not by enemy fire, not by pilot error, by engineering. The Army Air Forces classified the reports, sweeping the devastating truth under the rug. They didn't want the public or the enemy to know that American bombers were failing structurally. They told families that the aircraft were lost in combat. They weren't. They were lost to rivets, and the person who would fix this problem was 15 years old, lying on her stomach inside a wing in Kansas City, driving rivets with a 12-pound gun, 3 seconds per rivet. 47 rivets a day, 6,000 rivets total. Erlinda Avila didn't know she was saving lives. She thought she was just building bombers. She was wrong. Bloco 3, The Secret Inside the Wings. 1943, North American Aviation Engineering Department. A report lands on the chief engineer's desk. B-25 wing structural failure analysis. 16 bombers lost, not to enemy fire, to wing failure, mid-flight. The wings simply separated from the fuselage. The engineers investigate. They pull a B-25 off the production line. They X-ray the wings, and they find the problem. Rivets, not Erlinda's rivets, not the rivets installed by workers like her. The rivets installed by the automated machines on the outer wing panels. The machines were faster, 3 rivets per second. But they were inconsistent, some rivets too loose, some too tight. The stress concentrations caused micro cracks. Over time, those cracks spread until the wing failed. The engineers present their findings. We need to replace all automated wing riveting with manual riveting, hand-driven, human precision. The production manager asks the obvious question, how? We're producing 8 B-25s per day. Manual riveting will cut that in half. The chief engineer shakes his head. Not if we train more workers like Erlinda Avila. The production manager doesn't understand. Who? The 15-year-old in Section 7. She's been manually riveting interior wing structures for 6 months. We inspected her work. 0 defects, not one. The production manager pulls her file. Erlinda Avila, age 15, height 5 feet, weight 98 pounds, experience none. He looks up. She's a child. The chief engineer nods. She's perfect. She's small enough to fit inside the wings. Her hands are steady, and she cares. The machines don't care. She does. A micro reward too, 40%. That decision, replacing machines with workers like Erlinda, changed the course of World War II. By late 1943, B-25 structural failures dropped to 0. Not one B-25 lost to wing failure after the switch to manual riveting. But nobody knew who did the work. Not the pilots, not the generals, not even the engineers who made the decision. Until March 21st, 2025. Block 04. The girl who couldn't vote. Erlinda Avila didn't just build bombers. She built them as a Navajo woman in 1943, which meant she lived in a country that didn't recognize her as a full citizen. Native Americans weren't granted U.S. citizenship until 1924. Even then, many states refused to let them vote. Arizona was one of them. Navajo citizens couldn't vote in Arizona until 1948. So, in 1943, Erlinda Avila was building the aircraft that defended American democracy, but she couldn't participate in IT. The irony wasn't lost on her. Years later, in an interview, Erlinda would say, "I was told I couldn't vote because I wasn't American enough, but I was American enough to crawl inside a bomber wing and rivet it together so someone else could fly it into combat." He pauses. "That didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't." But she kept working. 18 months inside those wings, 6,000 rivets, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then, one day, the foreman pulls her aside. "Erlinda, we need to talk." She thinks she's being fired. He hands her a telegram. "Your brother, he's coming home." Erlinda reads it. Her brother survived. He's being discharged. He'll be home in 3 weeks. The foreman smiles. "You did good work here, real good. If you want to stay, you can." Erlinda looks at the B-25 on the production line. Then she looks at the telegram. "I'm done," she says. She walks out of the factory. She never goes back. Cliffhanger 2. For 80 years, Erlinda Avila's contribution was invisible. She had no medal, no recognition, no record in any official database. But in March 2025, someone found her. And when they did, they realized something that changed everything. Erlinda wasn't the only one. Block 05, 310,000 women. 2023. A historian at the National WWII Museum in New Orleans starts digging through archives. She's looking for women who worked in defense factories during World War II. She expects to find a few hundred names, maybe 1,000. She finds 5 million. 5 million women worked in American defense industries between 1941 and 1945. But there's a problem. Most of them were never officially recorded. No names, no records, no proof they existed, except for one group. North American Aviation kept meticulous records. They tracked every worker who performed manual riveting on critical aircraft structures. Why? Because if a plane failed, they needed to know who built it. The historian finds the records. 12,000 names. Women who manually riveted B-25 bombers, P-51 Mustangs, and other aircraft between 1942 and 1945. One name, Erlinda Avila, age 15, Section 7, interior wing riveting, 6,000 rivets, 0 defects. The historian keeps digging. She finds more. Jane Tucker, 17, rural Alabama, built P-47 Thunderbolts. Patricia McCarthy, 16, Buffalo, built P-51 drop tanks. Martha Williams, 18, Detroit, balanced P-39 Airacobra propellers. 310,000 women under age 21 worked in American aircraft factories during World War II. Most were never recognized. Many are dead. But in 2023, the historian compiles a list of 18 women who are still alive. Erlinda Avila is one of them. She's 97 years old. The historian contacts her. "Ms. Avila, did you work at North American Aviation in Phoenix during World War II?" Erlinda pauses. "Yes, for 18 months." "Did you rivet B-25 bomber wings?" "Yes." "Do you have any proof?" Erlinda laughs. "No, they didn't give us paperwork. We just worked." The historian has proof. The North American Aviation records, Erlinda's name, her work, her 6,000 rivets. "Ms. Avila, Congress is awarding the Congressional Gold Medal to women who worked in defense industries during World War II. You qualify." Erlinda is silent for a long time. Then she asks, "Why now?" The historian doesn't have a good answer. Micro Reward 3, 65%. The Congressional Gold Medal is the highest civilian honor the United States can award. Fewer than 200 have been given in American history. George Washington received one, the Wright brothers, Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, and in 2025, 5 million women who built the arsenal of democracy, 80 years late. But why did it take 80 years? Bloco 5. The other 17. Erlinda Avila wasn't alone at the March 21st ceremony. 17 other women stood with her, each with her own story, each invisible for 80 years, each now finally seen. Jane Tucker, 97 years old, rural Alabama. She built P-47 Thunderbolts at Republic Aviation. She was 17 when she started. Her father was a sharecropper. She'd never seen an airplane before her first day at the factory. By the end of the war, she'd helped build 212 P-47s, perfect record, 0 defects. She couldn't read or write when she started. The factory taught her. She learned to read blueprints before she learned to read books. Patricia McCarthy, 101 years old, Buffalo, New York. She built P-51 drop tanks at Buffalo Tank Corporation. The drop tanks that extended the P-51's range from 470 miles to 1,650 miles. The drop tanks that made the March 6, 1944 Berlin raid possible. Churchill called them the invention that won the war. Patricia made 47 of them, by hand, welded seams, perfect tolerances. If a drop tank failed, the pilot died. None of Patricia's drop tanks failed. Martha Williams, 99 years old, Detroit, Michigan. She balanced P-39 Airacobra propellers at Bell Aircraft. The P-39 had a unique design. The engine was behind the pilot, connected to the propeller by a 10-foot drive shaft. If the propeller wasn't perfectly balanced, the vibration would crack the drive shaft. The aircraft would crash. Martha balanced 847 propellers by hand, using weights, calipers, and a measuring scale accurate to 1/10 of an ounce. 847 propellers, 0 failures. Betty Morrison, 94 years old, Seattle, Washington. She installed electrical wiring in B-17 Flying Fortresses at Boeing. 14 miles of wiring per aircraft, 736 connection points. If one wire was crossed, one connection loose, one solid joint weak, the aircraft's instruments would fail. Navigation would fail. Communication would fail. Betty wired 103 B-17s. All of them flew. All of them returned. She still remembers the serial numbers. Helen Foster, 98 years old, Los Angeles, California. She installed hydraulic systems in P-38 Lightnings at Lockheed. The P-38's hydraulic system operated the landing gear, flaps, dive brakes, and gun turrets. 147 separate hydraulic lines, 3,200 rivets. Any leak, any failure meant the pilot couldn't land. Helen installed hydraulic systems in 217 P-38s. 0 leaks, 0 failures. She tested every system personally before the aircraft left the factory. And 12 more. 12 more women. Ages 94 to 101. 12 more invisible contributors. 12 more names that should have been in history books 80 years ago. They all wore red polka dot scarves. They all cried during the ceremony. They all asked the same question Erlinda asked. Why now? Nobody had a good answer, but they were there. March 21st, 2025. National World War II Museum, New Orleans. 18 women who built the arsenal of democracy, finally visible, finally honored, finally remembered, 80 years late. Bloco 6, March 21st, 2025. National World War II Museum, New Orleans, Louisiana. 5 p.m. 18 women arrive. The youngest is 94, the oldest is 101. They wear red polka dot scarves, the signature of Rosie the Riveter. Some use walkers, some use wheelchairs. All of them are crying. Museum staff and visitors line the plaza. They wave American flags, they cheer. Some are crying too. The Gary Sinise Foundation arranged everything, flights, hotels, the ceremony. They wanted these women to be honored while they're still alive, because next year some of them won't be. Erlinda Avila, 97 years old, walks slowly into the US Freedom Pavilion. She's wearing her red polka dot scarf. She's holding a small American flag. Her hands, those same hands that drove 6,000 rivets into B-25 wings, are shaking. A museum curator approaches. "Ms. Avila, we have something to show you." She leads Erlinda to a display. Behind glass, a section of a B-25 Mitchell bomber wing. Aluminum, rivets, fuel lines, hydraulic cables. The curator points to one rivet. This came from a B-25 built in 1943 at the Kansas City plant. Based on the records, there's a chance you installed it. Erlinda stares at the rivet. She reaches out, her hand hovering over the glass. "I remember," she whispers. The ceremony begins. A congressman reads the official citation. The Congress of the United States awards the Congressional Gold Medal collectively to the women who worked in defense industries during World War II. Their precision, dedication, and sacrifice built the arsenal of democracy. They defended freedom. They won the war. And today, 80 years late, we say, thank you. 18 women stand. The audience stands with them. Applause. It lasts 5 minutes. Erlinda doesn't hear it. She's staring at that rivet behind the glass. Later, a reporter asks her, "Ms. Avila, how does it feel to finally be recognized?" Erlinda thinks, "For a long time." Then she says, "I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because my brother was in danger. I did it because someone had to. But I'm glad people know now. I'm glad they know. We were there." The reporter asks another question. "What do you want people to remember?" Erlinda looks directly at the camera. "We were invisible. For 80 years, nobody knew our names. But we built the planes. We built the bombers. We built the fighters. Every rivet, every bolt, every wire. That was US. We were 15, 16, 17 years old. We couldn't vote. Some of us couldn't even read. But we built the arsenal of democracy. And we did it perfectly." Cliffhanger 3. That night, Erlinda Avila returns to her hotel room. She's holding the Congressional Gold Medal. It's heavy, real gold. She sets it on the bedside table, and then she pulls out something she's kept in her purse for 82 years. Something nobody else knows about, something that explains everything. Block 7. The rivet she kept. 1944. Erlinda's last day at North American Aviation. She finishes her final rivet. She crawls out of the B-25 wing. The foreman checks her work. Perfect, as always. "Good luck, Erlinda." She nods. She turns to leave. And then she stops. She looks back at the B-25 Mitchell. That bomber will fly to the Pacific. Someone will sit in the cockpit. Someone will trust that the wings won't fail. Erlinda climbs back onto the wing. She reaches into her tool pouch. She pulls out a single rivet, brand new, never used. She puts it in her pocket. The foreman sees her. "Erlinda, what are you doing?" "I want to remember," she says. The foreman should write her up. Stealing company property. But he doesn't. "Go home," he says quietly. Erlinda keeps that rivet for 82 years. She carries it in her purse, always. Through marriages, children, grandchildren, through decades of invisibility. And in March 2025, when the museum curator asks if she has anything from her time at North American Aviation, Erlinda reaches into her purse. She pulls out the rivet. "This," she says, "I kept this." The curator stares. "Ms. Avila, this is a 1943 B-25 Mitchell wing rivet. Do you know how rare this is?" Erlinda smiles. "I have 6,000 of them, but this one's mine." The curator asks, "Would you donate it to the museum?" Erlinda holds the rivet in her palm. It's small, aluminum, worn smooth from 82 years in her purse. She hands it to the curator. "Put it next to the medal," she says. "So people know the medal is pretty, but the rivet is what mattered. Micro reward for 90%. That rivet is now on display at the National WWII Museum in New Orleans, next to Erlinda Avila's Congressional Gold Medal, next to a photo of her at age 15, and next to a single sentence engraved in brass: "She was invisible, but she built the wings." Block 8. Why it matters now. 2025. The 18 women who attended the ceremony in New Orleans are dying. Not metaphorically, literally. They're in their 90s and hundreds. Every month, one or two pass away. By 2026, most of them will be gone. The historian who found their names says, "We're in a race against time." These women are the last living link to the arsenal of democracy. Once they're gone, all we'll have are records. And records don't tell you what it felt like to be 15 years old, crawling inside a bomber wing, knowing that if you made one mistake, someone would die. The Gary Sinise Foundation is now working to record oral histories from every surviving Rosie the Riveter they can find. As of March 2025, they've recorded 212 interviews. They're looking for more. Because the story of World War II isn't just about generals and battles. It's about Erlinda Avila. It's about Jane Tucker. It's about Patricia McCarthy. It's about 310,000 girls who couldn't vote, couldn't serve in combat, couldn't even get their names in a newspaper, but who built the AIR craft that won the war. They were invisible. They shouldn't have been. And now, 80 years late, we finally see them. Erlinda Avila, 97 years old, standing in the National WWII Museum, holding a rivet in her hand, looking at the camera. We were there. Remember that? We were there. Block 8.5. The Gary Sinise Foundation, Racing Against Time. The Gary Sinise Foundation didn't plan to preserve Rosie the Riveter stories. They started as a military veteran support organization, but in 2023, a foundation volunteer named Sarah Mitchell, herself a Navy veteran, attended a memorial service for her grandmother. Her grandmother, Dorothy Mitchell, had worked at Curtiss Wright in Buffalo during World War II. She'd never talked about it, not once, not to her children, not to her grandchildren. At the funeral, Sarah found a shoebox in her grandmother's closet. Inside, a toolbox key, a faded employee badge, and a handwritten note. "I built the wings. Nobody asked, nobody cared, but I built the wings." Sarah brought the shoebox to the Gary Sinise Foundation. "My grandmother served, just like veterans serve. She built the aircraft that won the war, but nobody remembered her. Nobody honored her. Can you help?" The foundation investigated. They discovered that Dorothy Mitchell had manually riveted C-46 Commando transport wings, 83 aircraft, between 1942 and 1944, 0 defects. She was 16 years old when she started. Dorothy died in 2022. She was 96. Nobody interviewed her. Nobody recorded her story. Nobody asked what it was like to be 16 years old, building military aircraft, knowing that if she made one mistake, soldiers would die. Sarah Mitchell started a program, the Soaring Valor Project. The mission: find every surviving woman who worked in defense industries during World War II, interview them, record their stories, preserve their voices before they're gone. As of March 2025, the Soaring Valor Project has identified 412 women still alive, ages 94 to 104. 412 living links to the arsenal of democracy. They've interviewed 212 of them. That leaves 200 women, and time is running out. The statistics are brutal. Women in their mid-90s have a 50% mortality rate within 2 years. Women over 100 have an 80% mortality rate within 1 year, which means if the Soaring Valor Project doesn't interview all 200 remaining women by the end of 2025, most of them will die. Their stories will die with them. Their voices will be lost forever. Sarah Mitchell says, "We're not preserving history, we're preserving people. These women aren't symbols. They're not statistics. They're Dorothy Mitchell. They're Erlinda Avila. They're Jane Tucker. They're real, they're alive, and they're dying." The Gary Sinise Foundation is funding as many interviews as possible. Each interview costs $300. That covers travel to the woman's home, professional recording equipment, transcription services, and archival storage at the National World War II Museum. $300. That's it. That's what it costs to preserve one woman's story forever. The foundation has funding for 50 more interviews this year. They need funding for 150 more. 50 interviews will preserve 50 voices. 150 interviews will preserve 150 voices. But there are still 200 women left, which means 50 women, 50 contributors to the arsenal of democracy, will die without ever being asked, "What was it like?" That's unacceptable. The March 21st ceremony wasn't just a celebration. It was a call to action, a reminder that these women are still here, they're still alive, they're still waiting to be asked, and we're running out of time. If this story moved you, consider leaving a super thanks. Here's why it matters. Every dollar from Super Thanks goes directly to a specific mission, partnering with the National World War II Museum and the Gary Sinise Foundation to fund oral history recordings of the last surviving Rosies. As of March 2025, there are an estimated 400 women still alive who worked in defense factories during World War II. Most have never been interviewed. Most will be gone within 2 years. Recording an oral history costs approximately $300 per interview. That includes travel, equipment, archival storage, and transcription. The museums and foundations don't have funding for all 400 interviews. They're prioritizing based on age, the oldest first, but that means women in their mid-90s are being skipped. Your Super Thanks changes that. Here's the math. 20 Super Thanks at $5 each funds one complete oral history interview. That's one more Rosie whose story gets preserved forever. One more name that won't be forgotten. If every person watching this video right now left just one Super Thanks, we could fund 50 interviews this month alone. The Gary Sinise Foundation has a goal: record 100 interviews by the end of 2025. We're at 212. We need 88 more, but time is running out. The women honored at the March 21st ceremony in New Orleans, 18 of them, are all over 95 years old. Statistically, half will be gone by March 2026. If you've ever felt grateful for the freedom you have, this is your chance to say thank you to the women who built it. Leave a Super Thanks, fund an interview, preserve a story, before it's too late. If you had seen Erlinda at age 15, crawling inside that B-25 wing, what would you have said to her? Drop your answer below. Let's honor her sacrifice together. Erlinda was 15 when she built bombers. What were you doing at 15? How does that compare? Share your story in the comments. Quick question. How many rivets did Erlinda install during her 18 months at North American Aviation? Drop your guess below before scrolling to see if anyone got it right. The answer's in the video. Honest question. Should the Congressional Gold Medal have been awarded 80 years ago, or is it better late than never? Let's debate this respectfully in the comments. If you're watching this in March 2025 or later, you're living in the same timeline as Erlinda Avila's recognition ceremony. That ceremony happened on March 21st, 2025 in New Orleans. Did you hear about it in the news? If not, why do you think it wasn't covered more widely? Drop your thoughts below. Did anyone in your family work in a defense factory during World War II? If so, share their story in the comments. Let's build a record together. The museums need these stories before they're lost forever. Perfect precision, zero defects. It's a phrase that speaks volumes about dedication and meticulous execution. In the relentless theater of World War II, where machinery was pushed to its limits and human lives hung in the balance, achieving such perfection was nothing short of a miracle. It required an unwavering commitment and an almost superhuman level of skill. But what if that miracle was achieved by someone you'd least expect, someone whose story has been largely unheard until now? Imagine Erlinda Avila, a young woman, barely out of her teens, full of youthful enthusiasm. When the call to serve echoed across the nation, Erlinda didn't hesitate. She was over the moon to contribute to the war effort, eager to do her part in what she knew was a fight for freedom. Little did she know, the path ahead would be fraught with challenges and demand more from her than she could have ever imagined. The year is 1944. The B-25 Mitchell bomber is a crucial piece of America's aerial arsenal. These aircraft were complex machines, requiring countless hours of meticulous work to keep them airworthy. One tiny imperfection, one overlooked flaw, could spell disaster for the brave airmen who depended on them. At a bustling aircraft maintenance depot, Erlinda found herself tasked with an incredibly demanding job. Inspecting B-25 Mitchell bombers, her mission to ensure that every single component met the strict test standards of quality and safety. This wasn't just about following procedure, it was about safeguarding lives. Imagine the weight of that responsibility on such young shoulders. Each rivet, each wire, each connection had to be perfect. No room for error, no margin for mistakes. Her tools were simple: a magnifying glass, a keen eye, and an unwavering dedication to her duty. Day after day, Erlinda scrutinized the massive B-25 Mitchell bombers, inch by inch, her focus unwavering. The constant noise, the demanding pace, the sheer scale of the task could have easily overwhelmed her. But Erlinda persevered, driven by a deep sense of purpose and loyalty. But Erlinda's meticulous work wasn't merely about technical proficiency, it was about something much deeper. A profound respect for the airmen who would fly those planes into harm's way. She knew that their lives depended on her vigilance, and she refused to let them down. She poured her heart and soul into her work, treating each inspection as if it were a matter of life or death, because in reality, it was. Word of Erlinda's exceptional skills and unwavering commitment quickly spread throughout the depot. Her superiors were astounded by her ability to consistently identify even the most minute imperfections. Soon, she became known for her perfect precision, a reputation that preceded her wherever she went. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Despite her extraordinary contributions to the war effort, Erlinda's story, like those of many other women and minorities, remained largely untold for decades. Her vital role, her perfect precision, was somehow lost in the annals of history, shadowed by the accounts of those who fought on the front lines. But that's about to change. Now, in 2025, nearly 80 years after the end of World War II, Erlinda Avila's remarkable story is finally being recognized. Her unwavering dedication, Her exceptional skills and her profound impact on the war effort are finally coming to light, thanks to the tireless efforts of historians, researchers, and advocates. Erlinda is set to receive the Congressional Gold Medal, one of the highest civilian honors in the United States. This prestigious award, bestowed by the United States Congress, is a testament to her extraordinary contributions and a long overdue acknowledgement of her service to the nation. The Congressional Gold Medal, alongside the collective recognition of many other women and minorities who served tirelessly during the war, symbolizes a new chapter in acknowledging the diverse contributions that shaped the course of history. It's a powerful reminder that heroism comes in many forms, and that every act of dedication, no matter how small it may seem, can have a profound impact. The story of Erlinda Avila serves as an inspiring example of the power of precision, dedication, and the importance of recognizing all contributions to our shared history. Her legacy will continue to inspire generations to come, a testament to a life lived in unwavering service to a cause greater than herself. And it all circles back to the simple yet powerful truth: perfect precision, zero defects, can change the course of history.